everybody. Good to see that North Carolina's holding it down. I want to, first of all, say a couple of things. I'm glad to be home. We're traveling around the country right now. This is happening all on the East Coast, and then at 2 o'clock in the Central, the mountains, and the West. I know it's different for us. We're not doing that 6 o'clock, but we're building something broader. During the last week, we'll be able to change the time, but it's important that this wave happens across the country. I want to ask the brother with the flag to come up here, and I want to ask 2 or 3 more veterans to join Brother Gerald. Are there any women veterans here, male veterans? If you would, I want you to join me today. And I want everybody to get this bullet, this piece out, and hold it up. I want the media to see this. I don't want them focusing the camera. Y'all come on up on the stage if you can. Come around the back. I don't want them so much focusing, and I hope I didn't offend anybody when I wasn't doing a lot of shaking hands and taking pictures, because this is serious business. And I love every one of you. But today, my heart grieves as yours should grieve. As 68 years ago, Dr. King warned us about any nation, he said, that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. Amen. And it should be saddened us that we did not learn that lesson. And I want to focus on a couple of issues today. And I want to start, however, because sometimes when you do this, people who don't really listen to what you're saying will say, well, that's just a bunch of bleeding heart liberals, whatever they want to call, which I'm proud to be liberal, I'm proud to be progressive. But you also know I'm a conservative because I want to conserve every word of the Constitution, particularly about equality and justice, and I want to liberally spread it to everybody. So you're not going to put me in that box. But there was a general who was president of this country, and he said in 1961, as he was leaving Gerald, the White House, Anna, and before the Vietnam War had fully kicked off, he was a warrior, and he said, in the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought by the military industrial complex. Now, in his original speech, he said congressional military industrial complex. Then he said the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. That's Dwight Eisenhower, a Republican. That's Dwight Eisenhower, not Dr. King, that's Dwight Eisenhower. He said we have to guard against the military industrial complex, or what we call the war economy, militarism, and the proliferation of guns, and how they all connect to systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, and the false moral narrative of religious nationalism. And so today, you heard Brother Gerald and others read the Did You Knows, and therefore we demand, because you know we believe in our movement, you ought to be, if you're going to be loud, you ought to be right, not wrong. We believe in truth. Our discontent is legitimate. And why are we doing this in state capitals and the District of Columbia today? And why are people submitting to nonviolent confrontation and civil disobedience? Why is that happening? Veterans and poor people and clergy and impacted people. Well, I want to take a few issues here today, but I want everybody to hold this for a second, because I got it. If you don't have one, raise your hand, because I want them passed out. We got 120 of these. Where are they? We need them handed out. Come on, quickly, team. These are not to hold. These are take home. These are to hand out, because I want you to. And if a camera is near you, I want you to turn and show it to them. I want them to see it. These are the facts that grow out of the poor people, the auditing the Souls of Poor Folks audit that was done by the Institute for Policy Studies and other academics and impacted people. Say that. Say the Souls of Poor Folk. Souls of Poor Folk. Auditing America. Auditing America. 50 years later. 50 years later. Everybody got one of these? Okay, y'all move on as quickly as you can, team, and show them to the cameras around you. I want you all to get this on camera, not so much me. And then after I'm finished, the real people I want you to pay attention are the veterans, the testifiers that are coming. Now, there's a lot on this sheet, but the reason we're here today at this state capitol in North Carolina, and the reason there will be people who will go inside of the state capitol, is because we have leadership in this state, in our legislature, an unconstitutionally constituted legislature. Because they're only there because of the voter suppression laws and the racist gerrymandering that we had to go to court to fight to change. But they are more interested in arresting protesters and blocking the voice of the people. They are more interested in that than they are interested in providing health care. I want you to think about this. They are more interested in arresting protesters than they are in providing living wages. They are more interested in arresting protesters and blocking the voice of the people than making it automatic registration to vote at 18, since you can be automatically drafted at 18. They're more interested in arresting voters than they are in providing fair and equal voting laws. They are more interested in arresting voters than they are in stopping unnecessary tax cuts to the greedy and the wealthy. And they are more interested in arresting voters than they are in banning assault weapons. Now, for those in the media and others who are listening, well, what does that have to do with militarism and the war economy? Well, first of all, 1 out of every 10 veterans use Medicaid. We don't often think about that. You can be a veteran and not qualify for the VA. And so 1 out of every 10, that's 1.7 million veterans and their spouses use Medicaid. So when you pass $1 trillion tax cut at the federal level, or you pass tax cuts at the state level that's going to cut Medicaid, you're going to hurt veterans. And here's the thing we ought to say. You can't wrap yourself in the flag on Memorial Day and then pass laws that hurt veterans the next day and then claim that you love veterans. Jesus said something about that. He said, you say, Lord, Lord, with your mouth, but your heart is far from me. Now, there are 340,000, say 340,000. Veterans that benefited from the Affordable Care Act. Y'all didn't hear what I said. 340,000 veterans that benefited from the Affordable Care. I don't call it Obamacare because that was a trick. That's a racialized code word. All right? Now, 30,000 veterans in North Carolina, Brother Bland, didn't get the benefit. Hear what I'm saying, media? A lot of folks haven't asked this question, members of the media. Ask the people in there who claim they love the veterans, why haven't they expanded Medicaid? Knowing that 30,000 veterans in North Carolina are going without health care because this legislature refused to expand Medicaid. You can't wrap yourself in the flag on Memorial Day and say you love veterans on Memorial Day and then pass laws that hurt veterans the next day. Now, 1/3 of all veterans have chronic diseases. Chronic diseases. Chronic diseases. Next point, you said, well, Reverend Barber, you said that North Carolina, this legislature hasn't raised the living wage or raised the minimum wage. Almost 80% of North Carolinians want a raise in the minimum wage. That ain't just black folk. That's 80%. Working people. There are 62 million working poor people in this country who work every day and make less than a living wage. There are 140 million poor and low work wealth and poor and working poor people. In fact, the majority of poor people in this country are white, women, children, and disabled and working. Down in the South, they try to make us think it's just black and brown folk that are lazy, but we know better than that. That's been used to separate. Now, veterans come out. I met several on this poverty tour we've been doing, and they work and use billion-dollar pieces of equipment and get home and can't make a living wage. So when North Carolina's legislature is more interested in blocking protesters, more interested in voter suppression, more interested in tax cuts for the wealthy, more interested in blocking health care, and not even willing to bring up, they won't even let you vote on it, North Carolina. We asked them, said, don't make the decision, put it on the ballot. And let people in North Carolina be willing to vote on raising the minimum wage to a living wage. And they wouldn't do it. And we have to say, if that's your political position, then you can't wrap yourself in the flag on Memorial Day and say you love veterans when on the next day you pass policies or block policies that are against and hurt veterans. Now, you say, well, what else does that have to do with it? Well, the CEOs, and I'm through, of weapons manufacturers earn more than $19 million a year. So turn this and say the CEOs who make a killing off of killing. They average $19 million a year. $19 million a year. A combat soldier makes barely $30,000. And you know about that bill that our legislators and other people have been celebrating? They talking about cutting food stamps. You know what they're not telling us? The farmers will be hurt. Mostly white children will be hurt. Rural people in the rural part of North Carolina and in the western part of the state will be hurt. But what they also didn't tell you, that there are 23,000 active duty service people who have to qualify for food stamps to eat. But yet folk on Monday want to wrap themselves in the flag and say they love the veterans. But you can't wrap yourself in the flag on Monday and then want to cut food stamps and health care on Tuesday and say you love the veterans. Here's my last point. When it comes to this issue of guns, a child dies every 2 hours and 48 minutes. In 2016, 3,128 children and teens died. And while what happens in our schools is horrific, because it happens all at one time, there's a level of death that goes on every day.
That's right.
And you can't have all these crocodile tears and say you're concerned about children and then tell the lie that guns don't kill people. And you protect the NRA more than you protect children and students and teachers. And you're more willing, this legislature behind us has done more to pass laws so that people can have more access to guns than they've done to pass health care and living wages and ban assault weapons. And that is wrong, that is immoral, and that's why we cannot be silent anymore. And it's happening all over. And then finally, another part of the war economy, militarism, say make the connections, is that we have now weaponized deportation. Now, it ain't just Trump's fault. Obama didn't do what he should have either. Y'all don't want to say amen, but we got to tell the truth. The Democrats, when they had the power, didn't do what they should have either. And I hope if they get power again, they'll stop being Republican light and start acting like what they run on. But when you have 1,500 children missing and afraid to even pick up the phone because of what might happen to them, I could not help where my preachers at, because I want to make sure I don't any preachers out here. I want to make sure I get, there's this scripture that I wish could be read to every politician, to the president, to Jeff Sessions, to this, because they claim they believe, you know, they claim they believe. But maybe they haven't read that one that says it would be better for somebody to tie a stone around their neck and to be thrown into the ocean than to offend and hurt these little ones. And it didn't say hurt the black little ones, or hurt the white little ones, or hurt the brown little ones, or hurt the Latino little ones, or hurt the gay little ones, or hurt the straight little ones. It said any of the little ones. Dr. King said that to continue to put more money in militarism and weaponization, I might paraphrase, is to, in a nation or in a state, is to do nothing but have a tragic death wish that will create moral injury, economic injury, and will open the way for authoritarianism. And as some of my Jewish friends are telling me, will open the way for fascism. And that's why we have to have this Poor People's Campaign launched. It's 40 days launching. We have to connect systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, the war economy, the proliferation of guns, and the false moral narrative. And we must be committed to a multi-year movement. And we must be committed to three things. We must change the narrative and put a face on the pain that's being caused by these policies. We must refuse to allow people to separate us, black and white and brown and red, from one another. We must have massive voter mobilization. We must get in the street and have massive nonviolent direct action and confrontation. And we must build power from the bottom so that the poor and the moral leaders and the clergy and the advocates and everybody is together. Because when we're together, we cannot be stopped. We can save the heart and the soul of this democracy, but we can only do it together, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.